Hello friends, this is the second question in the history mains questions of 2024 question paper. So what is the question? What were the events that led to the Quit India movement put out its results? So as I already explained in the first question we discussed so far, that we need to first write the historical background to the question. So what is the question about? The question is about the Quit India movement. That's the main part of the question. We need to write about the Quit India movement and the important events. We need to also highlight the events that led to the Quit India movement. So this question is more simple than the question about industrial revolution and its impact on Indian arts and crafts, because there are only two keywords. What are the events that led to the Quit India movement? So that we need to highlight. So first of all, historical introduction. The events led to the Quit India movement started with the Second World War. So I'm now first explaining the introduction part. So we need to start with the importance of Quit India movement. Importance of Quit India movement is that it was the largest mass national movement that was started by Gandhiji. Gandhiji in his lifetime had started three great national movements, mass movements. First one, Khilafat non-cooperation movement between 1920 to 22. Please understand, these are not required to be written in the introduction part. I am just giving you for background information. So second great national movement, mass national movement, was the civil disobedience movement started with Salt Satyagraha, Dandi March. And third great national movement, mass movement started by Gandhiji, was the Quit India movement. And Quit India movement was the most radical, most widespread and most militant, but also at the same time non-violent. So Quit India movement, another importance was that it happened when the British government was, when the British government was at its very fragile, very weak movement in India. It started in 1942. At that time, British government was in a very dire condition to hold India because the Japanese occupied even Myanmar, Burma, and all the other Asian colonies of both the British and the French. So British feared that if India was also occupied, conquered by the Japanese, then there was a very less chance of British to defeat the Axis powers, their enemies. So that was the importance of the Quit India movement. Just write these 2 points. First one, in the introduction, just write these 2 points. First one, Quit India movement was the most radical and widespread and militant national movement that Gandhiji ever led. And the second one, when it comes to the condition of the British were in a very weak and very fragile movement for their very survival as a nation. Forget about their empire. It was half lost. But even British nation was at stake for its survival. If India was also lost, then British would lose half of its fighting power, and there was a chance for its enemies to easily defeat and conquer them. So Quit India movement happened in such a condition. So we provided historical background as a part of introduction. Now what is the main content? So now we need to recount the events. So when Quit India movement started, so the Viceroy at that time announced unilaterally, without consulting any elected governments of India, where Congress party ministries were in power. So these governments were not consulted, and unilaterally the Viceroy announced that India was also a belligerent nation, that India would also participate in the Second World War in support of the British war effort. So that was not liked by the Congress ministries, the Congress working committee, and most of all Gandhiji. So they wanted to express their displeasure, and the Congress ministries resigned. So this all comes into main content. First one, Congress ministries resigned in October 1939 as a protest against unilateral decision made by the Viceroy to involve India in the Second World War, in which India had nothing to do. We had nothing to do in the British war effort. And there were three main opinions in the Congress party regarding how to respond to the Second World War. What should be the response of the Congress to the Second World War? First opinion was expressed by Gandhiji. So Gandhiji had taken a moral position. British were doing the right thing in fighting against Hitler and Japanese militarism and also fascist Italy. So democracy, peace, freedom and rights and the civilization itself was at stake. So in this perilous moment for the world civilization and the Western civilization, democracy and everything, Gandhiji believed that we should side with the British. But at the same time, Gandhiji was only ready to provide and give his moral support to the British. He did not commit any material or monetary support to the British. He was not ready to ask Indians to join the British army or contribute to the British war fund, but he was only ready to provide moral support. That was the first stand of the Congress, one of the stands of the Congress. The second stand of the Congress was the majority of the Congress leaders in the working committee, including the great national leaders like Nehru, Patel, Azad, Rajaji, all these great national leaders in the Congress other than Gandhiji, they believed that there should be a bargain between India and Britain. If Britain was willing to give complete independence to India at the end of the war, united India, not a divided India, and second, to give much of the power and responsibility in the hands of the Indians during the course of the war by introducing many Indians in the Viceroy's Executive Council, then only Indians should provide complete support to the British war effort. So there should be a bargain, because Britain was claiming that it was fighting for independence, fighting for freedom, democracy and everything. But the same freedom, democracy, rights, liberty were denied to Indians. So how India, which was forced to be in slavery, could fight for freedom of the world? If we have to fight for the freedom of the rest of the nations, then there should be freedom and democracy in India first. So that's a reasonable claim of majority of the Congress leaders like Nehru, Patel, Azad, Rajaji, Rajendra Prasad and everyone. And the third voice within the Congress was outright opposition to the British war and British rule. This was made by the radical elements within the Congress, the leftist elements within the Congress. Either the Congress Socialist Party members like Jayaprakash Narayan, Ramanohar Lohia, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, or Achyut Patwardhan, or Acharya Narendra Deva, etc., etc., along with Netaji Subhash Bose. So who at the time was the president of the Congress, just resigned. And these are the three different opinions expressed by the Congress members themselves. But the essential point is that in 1940, in opposition to India's involvement in the war without consulting the Congress ministries, Gandhiji started the individual satyagraha to oppose wartime restrictions on freedom of speech, association and everything. So that was the second most important event that happened before Quit India movement. And later, because of the pressure from American President Franklin Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill sent Cripps mission to India. So in order to mollify Indians, in order to convince Indians to support the British war effort. So this Cripps, Sir Stafford Cripps, a cabinet minister in the British cabinet, came to India in March 1942, made very minimal concessions, and he actually poured fuel on fire. So he gave concessions to various regions and minority religious communities and their representatives like Muslim League and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, that before India would be given independence, minorities, either regional linguistic minorities or the religious minorities, would be given a chance to decide whether they wanted to become a part of India or they wanted to form their own separate nations as well. So that angered the Congress and Indian political opinion in general. So they were not committed to complete independence as well. Cripps mission did not even commit to complete independence. So what we demanded was very high, and what was offered even after the war was very, very low, very, very minimal. So Gandhiji believed that without fighting for freedom in India, we could not help Britain in winning the war. So to fight for its own civilization. So the point is, the Quit India movement was started by Gandhiji to start this outright fight against the British, to prove that the passion and our commitment, dedication for complete independence did not die down. Even during the most fragile and weak moments in British history, when the British were fighting for their very life of their nation. So these were the important movements that led to the Quit India movement. And next important point we need to answer is what are the results? The results of the Quit India movement was that the participation of youth, the participation of students, the participation of radical elements in the Indian political movement, Indian national movement had increased in the Quit India movement. And most importantly, Quit India movement was following the militant non-violent model. Militant non-violence, that is a word. You can use this term and highlight it for getting better value for our answer. Militant non-violent movement. What is the meaning of militant non-violent? Opposite to any form of compromise with the opponent unless one's goal was achieved. That is the meaning of militant. Uncompromising attitude was taken. And Congress Socialist Party leaders, the young radical members of the Congress, just I mentioned, Jayaprakash Narayan, Ram Manohar Lohia, Achut Patwardhan, or Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, all these leaders played a very important role by escaping the arrest. That was different, because Gandhiji always preferred the Satyagrahis to court arrest. So he wanted them voluntarily to go to prison. But now Congress Socialist Party leaders escaped arrest, and then they went into hiding underground, and they participated in very active resistance against the British by spreading nationalist literature and everything. So this was done during the time of the Quit India movement. And another important result of the Quit India movement was that many parallel governments were formed in various parts of India. So in Midnapur district of Bengal, and in Talcher district of Odisha, and even in some parts of Krishna district in Andhra, and in Satara district in Maharashtra. In these places, British officials, police, and others, bureaucrats were thrown out of the region, and all the civic responsibilities that a government does were taken under the control of the Indian national leaders in the regions themselves. So it provided great inspiration for the Indian masses to take participation in the Quit India movement. So these are the results of the Quit India movement. And I say, and you can also write this, use this in the answer writing, that Quit India movement was one of the most important reasons for the British to take early exit from India, even before they anticipated. They believed that India could be ruled for more than 20-30 years. But after the end of the war, British believed, because of the radicalization that happened during the Quit India movement, British could no longer rule India for much longer, could no longer rule India. That also happened because of the Quit India movement. So these are the results. Thank you very much.